Hello, students. This is Dr. Smith, and I just wanted to take a couple of moments to deliver a quick just-in-time video to you. In looking over your exercise on creating a works cited page, I noticed that most of you are right on track or very close to getting acquainted or more acquainted with the MLA style of citation, which is great for your assignments that you're working on at the moment. And I also noticed that there were some trends. And as I was commenting on everybody's papers, I noticed that very consistently there were some trends that almost everyone had some slight issues with. So rather than comment on every single paper and give the exact same feedback, I thought I would put it together in a short video here just to kind of present to all of you some of the common threads that I saw in everybody's work that could be improved upon. There may be a few of you that I sent back a works cited page to and asked you to revise and redo. If I did, please don't be discouraged. It's because I do want you to use this exercise to practice getting the MLA style down. So if I sent it back to you and said please revise, then that means that I saw enough issues there that I felt that you would benefit from revising, going back over the material, and then submitting again. So it gives you another chance to improve your grade on this particular assignment. That being said, as you prepare for assignment 2 and prepare for creating your works cited page for your final draft of assignment 2, I also wanted to just kind of check in with everybody with this just-in-time instructional video. So this won't take very long. I'm just going to kind of go over a few things and a few representative examples, and then from there please feel free to follow up with me. I encourage you to go back to the prior lessons and activities that take you deeper into MLA citation style. Once you get that down, then we can look at other kinds of styles as well. Okay. So if you go to your current week 7, or at this point, we're at the end of week 7, look at that module. You will see the just-in-time instructor note, and it's entitled Feedback on Creating a Works Cited Page. So this short notice just kind of gives you a quick overview of what I've just mentioned. And then it also lists some of the common errors that I have seen. So we're going to address that, and we're going to look at some very specific examples of other things that I think will be good review for you in the next few minutes. So first of all, alphabetize your citation entries. So in MLA style and in other styles, we generally tend to alphabetize by the author's last name. So if the author's last name is Apple, Apple comes before pear, for instance, right? So A is for apple, P is for pear. So going by the author's last name, you want to alphabetize and organize those entries. If there is no author, then you want to alphabetize by the first keyword in the article title. And so that's how you would handle that. Now, government sources. One of the examples that you had to work with for this assignment was practicing entering a government source. And sometimes that can be kind of confusing. Basically, government sources sometimes don't have a specific author. Occasionally they will have an author listed, but let's say that it's published by the United States Department of Health or the Department of Economic Security. Then in those particular instances, then it may be a collectively produced government source where maybe the authors are not specifically referenced. In that particular instance, then the author actually becomes the name of the government and the name of the department. So if it were a state government source, let's say it's the state of Arizona, you would put state of Arizona, and then let's say it's the Department of Education. So state of Arizona, period, Department of Education. Let's say that it's a U.S. department, then United States, period, and then the name of the department. So if it's the Department of Economic Defense, you would put that. If it's the Department of Health or the National Institute of Health, then you would cite that. And that becomes the author name. So we're going to look at a couple of examples of that in a moment. And then finally, just a reminder about how to handle article titles versus titles of what actually contains the article or the chapter or the news reference. So titles of books, websites, journals, magazines, and databases are italicized. So that's when you use the slanted italicized font, as is shown here up at the top of the page when it says please read. You italicize those titles. And then to indicate that you have an article title that's contained within, then you enclose the article titles in regular quotation marks. So some of you were mixing that up just a little bit, so that would be something to take a quick look at. Next, use a hanging indent. A hanging indent is different from a regular paragraph indent when you indent your paragraphs in your essay. A hanging indent actually starts out with the first line of your reference flush with the left margin, and then until you finish that citation, everything else is indented 0.5. So it's kind of like upside down from a paragraph in a way. So the examples that are in your lessons and activities do show some sample citations, and those sample citations will show that hanging indent. So you'll want to be sure to use that if you have not already. Also, there is something that I have seen fairly repetitively, and I understand that when you go to get the references from the library, occasionally it will use the word shibboleth in such a way that it looks like it's the name of a database. It's not. It's simply a reference that is for library usage. It's not the name of a database. So the name of a database might be Science Direct is where you got the actual information. But in the library reference, it may list shibboleth for some reason. Don't be deceived by that. Use the name of the actual database when you're citing. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to kind of go to your modules again. And specifically, I want to go to, under creating a works cited list, I want to go to some of the examples here. So when you go to the examples here, these are the particular sources that you were asked to work on citing. Some of you chose to go ahead and work with your actual sources that you were developing for assignment 2, and that's okay too, as long as you have the different types of sources represented in your practice here. Now when we go down here, see how it shows examples of how to cite a book, a web page, and an online journal. Let's go to the toughest one first. The toughest one and the most detailed citation is usually an online journal or magazine article. So let's go to the link there. And Purdue, by the way, online lab is really pretty cool. It has a lot of really good referenced resources to help you with different aspects of writing, but it also has some really good just general references on how to cite MLA. It also has information on APA styles, so if you're working with APA in another class, you can do that. We're not looking at APA just yet, but we will later on in this particular semester. So notice that they give you a really nice example, first of all, of the kind of information that you need for the citation and the order in which it appears. And then they give you some examples of an article in a magazine, an article in a newspaper, article, an editorial, different kinds of articles, and then scholarly journal articles. This is the one that's probably the most detailed, and the one that, if you get this right, you're going to be in much, much better shape. So these particular references do not indicate a reference from an online journal yet, but you can build upon it from this example, and there are some other examples within your lessons here as well. But let's just kind of take a look at, for instance, this work from Anthony Burgess. So here we have the last name of the author, first name of the author, the title of the article that's contained within the journal Literature and Society, and notice that that's enclosed in quotation marks with a period. Now, sometimes you may see all of the key words capitalized within an article title. And in some cases, you may see in the original publication all caps. In other publications, you may see only the first word and then proper nouns, like Graham Greene, for instance, that are capitalized. Whatever you do, you want to be consistent. There are two ways that you can do this. You can just capitalize the first letters of all of the keywords in the article title. That's probably the easiest to remember. Or you could just capitalize, in this instance, politics, and then you would have to capitalize Graham Greene since it's the proper name of someone. And then novels wouldn't have to be capitalized. But then if you do that, then Eve's Apple or Women's Narrative Bites would also have to follow that same framework. So instead of capitalizing all of the key words here, then Eve would be capitalized because it's that first letter of that first word in the article title. It also is a proper name. But then everything else would be in lowercase. So it would be Eve, capital E, but then lowercase a for apple, lowercase w for women. Narrative bites would also be lowercase. Whichever way you choose, you would need to be consistent with it in order to be compliant with MLA citation requirements. So whatever's easiest for you to remember, choose that. I always kind of recommend just go with the keyword, the keywords and capitalize, and then you're in good shape. Okay, other things to notice. Occasionally what I saw was that some people were not enclosing their article titles in quotation marks, or they were enclosing them in quotation marks, but they were also italicizing and using this slanted text like in Literature and Society here. We use the italicized slanted text for certain things. We use it for the names of newspaper title, actual newspapers, so whatever contains the article. So the name of the newspaper, the name of the book, the name of the journal, the name of the magazine, the name of a website, all of those kinds of things are not capitalized, are italicized. So if you think of it as the container that contains the smaller article or chapter, then you want to italicize that. So Literature and Society, which is a particular issue of a larger journal called the Journal of Contemporary History, then that would be italicized. Notice also that if you have volume and issue information, MLA now kind of is similar to APA in that it allows you to write out VOL for the volume number, and then NO for the issue number, and then you would put the year and the page numbers on which that particular source is cited. Now, let's say that you got this from Academic Search Premier in the library. Then the only thing you would have to add in order to move this from a printed article citation to an online journal article citation would be to simply add the name of the database in italics. So you would put Academic Search Premier, or if it came from Science Direct, then Science Direct. And then from there, once you name the database, then you can put the URL address after that. So all of this is correct in both of these instances, but if it were cited from an online journal or from an online database that you got from the library, then you would need to add that information. So this works only if you physically got this journal article off the shelf, okay? So you might have gotten it from, a collection in the volumes that are, on the shelf, or, let's say that you went to the grocery store and you pulled a newspaper off of the shelf, so to speak, or, out of the stand, then that would be a print source. But most of the sources that you cite today, usually, unless you physically have it in hand, you're citing it as an online source. So just kind of be aware of that. Okay, other things to be aware of. When you cite with more than one author, there are a couple of ways to handle that. So let's go back to a book citation real quickly. So this is periodicals. Now let's go to books for a moment. Okay, so books, most of you did a great job with exercise there. The basic thing about books is the kind of information and what is cited, and then whether or not it is an online text or an actual physical book you get off the shelf. So a physical book that you get off the shelf, pretty easy. Last name of author, first name of author, in italics, the title of the source, the title of the actual book, and then sometimes books do have a subtitle. So if they do, then you see that little colon there, that is put between the main title and then the subtitle in order to show that this is still part of the title there. And then in this particular instance, then the one thing that kind of is missing here is the city where it was published. Sometimes you might see examples in this case where maybe the city, if it was published a little bit earlier, or if the publisher is not well known, for instance, then sometimes the city might be more important. So was it published in New York? Was it published in London? Was it published in Dubai? Where was it published? Then you might need to include the city. However, Penguin Books, Harcourt Brace, some publishers are very well known, and so sometimes you can get away with just putting the name of the very well-known publisher and then the date that it was published. So this is a book that you get off the shelf. And then this one is also an example of a book that you get off the shelf here, but this is a book with more than one author. When you have two authors, then the order of information is last name, first name of the first author that is listed, and then the first name and last name of the next author that is listed. And it's in the order in which those authors appear on the book reference. So if Paula Gillespie is cited first, then you cite Paula Gillespie first. So Gillespie, Paula, and Neil Lerner. So notice how it's punctuated, notice how it's set up, and then you just follow that according to that. Now, let's say that you have 3 authors or more. MLA allows you to do something kind of special that APA doesn't. APA makes you list all of the authors, but in MLA format, you're able to use a phrase that's a Latin phrase that stands for and others, ET and then AL, right? So if you use ETAL, right, and there should be a period there after ET usually, then that stands for and others. You only list the first author, and then that ET et al. Just lets your readers know that you have multiple authors, but you're choosing not to list all of them, since that would be rather time consuming. And someone, when they look up the text, they'll be able to see who the other authors are. Okay, so let's say that you have a situation where this particular text was published, but it was published online. Let's say you got it from ebooks. And when you go to the library databases, it's listed under ebook or under another online publication where the full text of that book and that source is actually listed online, and you can bring up the title, you can bring up the title page, you can bring up the pages one by one, you can bring up an index with the chapters, and you can go from one chapter to the next, and it's all available online. If it's available to you online and it's not something that you physically got off the shelf, then you want to give that credit also. But that's really easy to add on here. All you have to do is add on and name the name of the database again where you got the online text. So if it's ebook, then you would put ebook after your full print citation. So after the year here for Gillespie and Lerner, after it says 2000 there, then just space it out and then just put ebooks, italicize it, and then provide URL link. If there's a permalink or something like that, then you can provide that. And then that makes it very easy for someone to then note that you have that information and that you got it from another source. Okay, so there are a lot of different instances of different kinds of books, different kinds of resources that you can actually look up here. So if you have an unusual one, this is a good place to go to get a good sense of where to cite and how to cite your information there. Okay. So with that in mind, and then here's another example, another set of examples. So you've got a lot of good examples to look at and a lot of good examples to help you with your citations. And then there's also a nice video here on citations, checklist, and MLA format template. So if you're having a little bit of trouble with the actual MLA formatting, you can look at a sample works cited list. Remember that you want to follow the style sheet form. So both for your essay and for your works cited list. Times New Roman, 12 point, double spaced. Make certain that you're indenting your citations with that hanging indent that we were talking about. And make certain that you are following that style sheet format that is required. All you have to do is go back to your modules. If you don't remember how to format your papers, then if you haven't downloaded from the Start Here menu at the very beginning of class, if you have not downloaded the style sheet yet, go ahead and download that. And then that way you'll have it offline and you can reference it anytime you want. So this shows you how to format your paper, how to format your paragraphs. There's a little text box here that reminds you of what you need to do specifically in terms of setting up your margins, etc. And then you follow you follow that guideline. The only difference is that when you create a works cited page, instead of indenting the first lines of your paragraphs, the first line will be flush with the left margin, and then the subsequent lines of that article citation will be indented 0.5. So it's kind of like backwards and upside down. So that kind of sums up, in general, some of the observations that I made about your citations for your citation practice. So take a look at the comments I've given you. If I did not comment, please make a note of what I've said in this particular video, and then go back and take a look at what you've got in your exercise. If I have asked you to redo, please redo. Otherwise, just kind of make a note of the trends and the mistakes that I mentioned here that you want to try to avoid. And then as you are finalizing your works cited page for your assignment 2 essay, go back and just double check and make certain that you've properly cited your work there. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, let me know. I also encourage you to take your work to the Writing Center. The Writing Center does have on-campus hours this semester, as well as it continuing to have online tutoring available as well. Thank you and have a great day.